Welcome and good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening for our Open Book, Open Mind series. As Peter said, I believe this is Tayari's third time joining us at Montclair Public Library. I'm really excited to have her and welcome her back. As he also said, I'm chair of the Library Foundation, and we are very pleased to work with the library trustees in bringing you the Open Book, Open Mind series, which we really view as a strategic asset for our library and our community. Our hope is that we'll be able to bring you the highest caliber of talent and programming, clearly as exhibited this evening, in an effort to garner your financial support, which in turn will help us continue to support the community and not only Montclair, but surrounding communities, and be more intentional and deliberate about delivering various services to our community. So as you think about organizations to support, we ask that you strongly consider putting the Montclair Public Library at the top of that list. I first heard the buzz early last year about the American marriage as I was in search of a book to take on our spring break vacation. I read the USA Today review that came out in February of this year that said, "Marriage exposes the intimate toll of an American shame, the unjust imprisonment of Black men. It uncovers the truths that are revealed in the nearly invisible cracks that emerge in relationships and the devastating harm and secrets of omission." I was immediately drawn in. Well, that was in February when I read Patty Rule's USA Today review, and consistently through the days remaining in February and throughout March, I kept seeing the book in the hands of commuters on the train and the subway. Then I learned that Tayari is a Spelmanite, and the characters in the book were alumni of Spelman and Morehouse colleges. I was hooked. Tayari is the author of the novels Leaving Atlanta, The Untelling, Silver Sparrow, and obviously An American Marriage. Her writing has appeared in Tin House, The Believer, The New York Times, and Calendar. A member of the Fellowship of Southern Writers, she has also been a recipient of the Hurston Wright Legacy Award, the Lifetime Achievement Award in Fine Arts from the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, United States Artist Fellowship, NEA Fellowship, and Radcliffe Institute Bunting Fellowship. Silver Sparrow was added to the NEA Big Read Library of Classics in 2016, and as you all know, this book was also in Opus Book Club. She's a graduate of Spelman College, University of Iowa, and Arizona State University. She's now a professor of creative writing at Emory University. Tom Perrotta said it best, "An American Marriage asks hard questions about injustice and betrayal and answers them with a heartbreaking and genuinely suspenseful love story in which nobody's wrong and everybody's right." Tayari has written a complex and important novel about people trapped in a tragic situation, struggling to reconcile their responsibilities and desires. In conversation this evening, we're equally excited to have Dr. Nell Irvin Painter, who is an accomplished historian and author. Following her retirement from Princeton University, she surprised everyone in her life by returning to school in her 60s. It's okay when you say that, right? In her 60s to earn a BFA and MFA in painting. She's the author of The History of White People, which was another spring break read of mine. And I must tell you, I don't know which garnered more intrigue. A man reading The American Marriage by the pool, or being on vacation in Florida and reading The History of White People. As vacationers pass my lounge chair, casually glancing at its cover. In her memoir released this past summer, Old in Art School, Dr. Painter travels from her beloved Newark to the prestigious Rhode Island School of Design, finds meaning in the artists she loves, even as she comes to understand how they may be undervalued, and struggles with the unstable balance between the pursuit of art and the inevitable, sometimes painful demands of a life fully lived. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my esteemed pleasure to introduce Tayari Jones and Dr. Nell Irvin Painter.
So I had lots and lots and lots of things to say to Tayari, who I absolutely adore, and you know why, because you absolutely adore her too.
Wait, they still can't hear?
You can hear me, I know you can. So, much of what I wanted to start with, you've already heard, so I'm not going to repeat that. It was about what a great book this is, and some of your honors, so I'll have to say some of the honors again, because you didn't get them all. But to start with, look, how many of you have already read this book? Put your hand up. Okay, so this means wonderful. This means that Tayari doesn't have to tell you again where she got the idea, right? You know about the ball scene, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can tell them.
Tayari will tell you the ball scene, and then maybe you could read some?
Okay, then I'll read some. I feel like my mic is much louder than hers. Yeah.
This is how they do it.
An American Marriage is a novel that took me 6 years to write. I had a one-year fellowship to Harvard University to research incarceration, mass incarceration, wrongful incarceration. I knew that I wanted to write a novel on this idea, but I didn't know what the story would be. And I did all this research, and I learned a lot about injustice. I was like filled with rage. I learned statistics that would keep you up at night. But I didn't have a story to tell because I'm a storyteller, not an ethnographer, not a sociologist. And I didn't have a story, and I didn't know what I was going to do. The Harvard people wanted a presentation of my work. I had been working, but I didn't have work. And so I went to Atlanta to visit my mother to talk to her, which I do, when I have things on my mind. And while I was there, I went to the mall to look at shoes, which I do when I have things on my mind. And then I went to the food court to get a snack, which I do when I have things on my mind. And while I was there, I saw a young couple. They were clearly in love and in trouble. And she was very beautifully dressed. That's why I noticed her. I just was admiring her coat and her shoes. And she was talking to a man, and he was not elegantly put together. He looked like he worked hard, but I noticed them because they were, as the old people say, unequally yoked. People still say that? Yeah. Yes, they were unequally yoked. And I heard her say to him, clear as a bell, she said, Roy, you know you wouldn't have waited on me for 7 years. And I felt like she knew it, he knew it, and I knew it, that he probably would not have waited on her for 7 years. But then he turned toward her and said, I don't know what you're talking about. This wouldn't have happened to you in the first place. Again, she knew it, he knew it, and I knew it. And I feel like I have a novel and I have a situation where both the characters are right, where they disagree, but they're both right. And that's when I got the idea to write a novel about a young couple separated by his wrongful incarceration. I think back on those young people, they could have been arguing about anything. Like, he could have just traveled a lot, I don't know. But I felt like that overheard argument was a gift to me to help me find the story I had been looking for. I'll read just a few pages from near the beginning just so you can get a sense of it, and then we can go on with our conversation. I'm gonna try to pin this thing. What I know now is this. They didn't believe me. 12 people and not one of them took me at my word. There in the front of the room, I explained that Roy couldn't have raped the woman in room 206 because we had been together. I told them about the magic fingers that wouldn't work, about the movie that played on the snowy television. The prosecutor asked me what we had been fighting about. Rattled, I looked to Roy and to both our mothers. Banks objected, so I didn't have to answer, but the pause made it appear that I was concealing something rotten at the pit of our very young marriage. Even before I stepped down from the witness stand, I knew that I had failed him. Maybe I wasn't appealing enough, not dramatic enough, too, not from around here. Who knows? Uncle Banks, coaching me, had said, now is not the time to be articulate. Now is the time to give it up. No filter, all heart. No matter what you're asked, what you want the jury to see is right. why I married him. I tried, but I didn't know how to be anything other than well-spoken from strangers. I wish I could have brought a selection of my art, the Man Moving series, all images of Roy. I would say, this is who he is to me. Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he gentle? But all I have are words which are light and flimsy as air. As I took my seat, not even the black-legged juror would look at me. It turns out that I watched too much television. I was expecting a scientist to come and testify about DNA. I was waiting for a pair of handsome detectives to burst into the courtroom at the last minute, whispering something urgent. Everyone would see that this was a big mistake, a major misunderstanding. We would all be shaken but appeased. I fully believed that I would leave the courtroom with my husband beside me. Secure in our home, we would tell people how no black man is really safe in America. But 12 years is what they gave him. We would be 43 years old when he was released. I couldn't even imagine myself at that age. Roy understood that 12 years was an eternity because he stopped right there at the defendant's table. His knees gave way and he fell into his chair. The judge paused and demanded that Roy bear his knees on his feet. He stood again and cried, not like a baby, but in a way that only a grown man can cry, from the bottom of his feet up through his torso and finally to his lips. When a man wails like that, you notice all the tears he was never allowed to shed, from little league disappointment to teenage heartbreak, all the way up to whatever injured his spirit just last year. As Roy howled, my fingers kept whirling a rough patch of skin beneath my chin, a souvenir of scar tissue. When they did what I remember as kicking in the door, what everyone else remembers as opening the key, after the door was open, however it was open, we were both pulled from the bed. They dragged Roy into the parking lot, and I followed, lunging for him, wearing nothing but a white slip. Somebody pushed me to the ground, and my chin hit the pavement. My slip rode up, showing everything to everyone, and my tooth sank into the soft skin of my body. Roy was on the asphalt beside me, barely beyond my grasp, speaking words that didn't reach my ears. I don't know how long we lay there, parallel like burial plots. Husband, wife, what God has brought together, let no man tear asunder.
Your book starts with an epigraph from the poet Claudia Rankine. She says, "What happens to you doesn't belong to you, only half concerns you. It's not yours only."
I was stranded trying to write this book. Like I said, it took me 6 years because I couldn't make a decision about Kennedy. The first time I sat down to write this book, I wrote it from beginning to end from Celestial's point of view. I was very interested in the way that a woman would negotiate being a wife and being married under these circumstances. And it didn't feel quite like a whole story. I felt like in this situation, her point of view just wasn't enough. And I felt a little stranded with that because, well, what does that mean if I'm saying that her experience isn't enough to carry the book? But then I rewrote it from his point of view, from beginning to end, and I felt like I had written a story that was very familiar. I felt like I knew the story of a man in trouble, the man versus the state. All he wants is to come home and find a faithful woman in a clean house. And I felt like I read before. I felt like I had read before in the Odyssey. Because that's what Odysseus wants. He wants to come home and find a faithful woman in a clean house. And then I was thinking, that was 70 BC. And so I decided to toggle their points of view, and it felt better. But then I heard Claudia read, and she read that. What happens to you doesn't belong to you. And the part that really got me when she said, it only half concerns you. And I thought, what does that mean that something is your story, but it only half concerns, like half of your own story is not even your business, it only half concerns you. And that's when I decided to then add the third voice of Andre. And because that poetry was such a North Star for me, I decided to make it the beginning of the book.
As you were writing, you had friends, colleagues who were reading along with you. And sometimes they drove you a little crazy,
A little.
because they were getting upset.
It's true.
You were not delivering what they wanted. You said they all were upset with Celestial for not performing the role in a narrative they were expecting. This was a huge challenge for you, Tayari. When I would say, this is a novel about a woman whose husband was wrongfully incarcerated, people would think, this is a novel about the brave fight to free her man. But that's not really my focus, and people would just be really frustrated.
It's true, for the first time I couldn't, part of the way that I write, I have these friends who read my work as it goes along, and I give them my early chapters and they give me feedback, and it's usually a positive experience, but I noticed that I was fighting with my friends about the idea of the book. And this never happened to me before. Like, I had one friend, like, we had to agree that we would stop talking about this book. Like, she was mad at me, like, these were real people. Like, it's like she was mad at me even thinking about this. Like, because when you think about it, when you write a novel, really you're just entertaining an idea. You're just exploring an idea. And she really wanted to see, what I'm calling this is the tyranny of genre expectation. That there's certain stories that you think you know in advance, and
You want to hear.
that you want to hear, and you think you know, and so when it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, it's almost like you feel like you ordered steak and they brought you salmon. And the person's like, this salmon is really good, it's black and it's seared. They're like, that's not what I ordered. I ordered the steak, and this was a real challenge because I do think the way that we've been taught to value women's contribution is the extent to which the women's contribution is measured by the extent to which they serve other people. Like, that's just the way that we understand what makes you a good woman or not a good woman. So when I started playing around with the measuring stick, it just really bothered people. This one book club in LA, they came to blows. True story. I said, ladies. But it was just so, I didn't realize I had written a book that would be this company. I thought it would be somewhat challenging, but I did not anticipate, book clubs.
In my notes, I wanted to ask you to talk more about Celestial as an artist, and I wanted you to talk a little bit more about the character of Andre. But I'm going to skip that right now. You want to come back to that? Yes. What I want to go over to, since you're going that way, is the universal appeal of an American marriage. Oprah is the expert on universal appeal, and she always picks books that she thinks have universal appeal. President Obama also took an American marriage on vacation. You've won lots of prizes and been giving lots of interviews to the mass media. So you have the stamp of approval for universal appeal. And your title is a title that seeks universal appeal. An American marriage, it's not a Black American marriage, a young Black marriage, a young marriage, an incarcerated marriage. It's an American marriage.
Well, an American marriage was not my original title. My publisher told me I needed another title. They didn't like the title. I knew they weren't going to like the title, but I didn't know the new title, and he said we were brainstorming titles, and I just gave them American Marriage, and just to get the ball rolling, I think I said something funny like, oh, whenever you say something that's American, people take it seriously. I told them my cat is writing this memoir. It's called American Feline. I was like, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. And so he said he liked American marriage. And I pushed back against it because I do think of that universal appeal piece. Because also, when something tends to be universal, it also is a certain amount of generic. You know, and I just wasn't into it. And I think it's also because I've never been called American without another word in front of it. Or two. Yes. I never. So I felt like I wasn't sure if they were trying to disguise the book, where you wouldn't know that it was a book about black people with that title. I just didn't know where to go with it. And I asked my mentor, Pearl Clay, I was like, Pearl, what do you think they want me to call this book An American Marriage? And she said she liked it. And she said, what's happening to these characters could only happen in America. Because, you know, we have very high rate of incarceration. The particular way that racism manifests in this country is unique to this country. But I was still kind of on the fence. I didn't know what, if I don't know, the title An American Marriage sounded to me like it was about some white people in Connecticut getting a divorce. And so my editor, I finally told him I was thinking about it, I was coming closer, and then he asked me another question. He said, are you afraid to accept this title because are you afraid to say that you're grasping for big ideas? Because every other, when I kind of agreed on American, I was asking for other like mitigating words like story of American marriage, portrait of American marriage. And he said every word you're doing is you're trying to make it smaller. Do you not have any confidence in yourself to say that your book is called An American Marriage? And I said, okay, I'll take it. And then he said, well, it's good because we already wrote the book. But I do think that the title is kind of like, it's big and it's open. Like, it's gotten endorsed by, what's her name? President Bush's daughter, Jenna Bush. She recommended the book on the Today Show. She said, oh, I'm reading this book called An American Marriage, but she didn't say anything else about it. And so a number of people I'm hearing, the words An American Marriage sound different from her lips than from mine. So when Jenna Bush recommends a book called An American Marriage, people thought they were ordering something very different off the menu. You see, and you can see it on Amazon and be like, what is happening here?
Well, it crossed my mind, though, that non-black readers might read An American Marriage as part of the marriage manual that black Americans have been presenting to other Americans for centuries, which is how to be married and equal. That is to say that how a bond works when the wife, as well as the husband, is in the parent workforce, is a working person. So we know the old saying that women just entered the workforce in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, when black women have been in the workforce forever, even before it was a official workforce. And white women entering the workforce often found themselves totally confused. Marriages totally confused, without their being able to look at black marriage as a pattern, as a way. So I think in some ways that this book, being an American marriage, says to non-black Americans, look, these are some of the issues and some of the solutions and some of the non-solutions, but this is marriage as it is when both partners are equal.
I think that this book, and there are a lot of marriages in this novel, but I feel like the marriage at the center with Celestial and Roy is having a lot of gender problems in that when the husband is incarcerated, then he cannot contribute to the marriage. He is dependent on her. And I think part of the tension between them is the way, because I feel like he is a person who very much enjoyed the way he thought his marriage was looking. Like, she's an artist, but he felt he would be her manager, which is a companionate thing, but it's also a little bit like he's managing her. Like, it's not that she works for him, but that he has a certain control over what she's doing.
He wanted to forward her art. He wanted to make it possible for her. He wanted to do her art full time.
He did, yeah. So it was companionate. I felt like he liked what I like to call I call it benevolent patriarchy. You know, like when it's clear that he is as they say, wearing the pants, but he's nice about it. Kind of like, that's kind of how I felt like, even when I was watching Black Panther. I felt like the Black Panther model, which is, you know, it is a kingdom, but everybody's nice about it. So that it's not a problem that it's a kingdom. And I felt like this is kind of what Roy wanted, a benevolent patriarchy. And when he sent to prison, he can't be in that place anymore. And her career, her life is taking off. So I felt like they had the problems that everyday people have, just like cranked up to 20. And trying to figure out what does it really mean to support another person in both ways? How much of yourself do you reserve for your marriage? How much do you reserve for your own ambition? And how do you make peace with that? And I felt like the strange situation that this couple was in really brought these things to light in a different kind of way.
And especially with your alternating the voice through letters. You write letters.
I write letters all the time. I write about 5 or 6 letters a week, and nobody writes me back. Like my own mother. I write my mother a letter every Sunday. And she texts me on Thursday. I think that prison, a novel about prison is the only place where you can write a novel in letters, and it's organic. It doesn't feel like you're just looking for a way to write a novel in letters. Because letters mean so much to people in prison. There's email in prison, but you have to pay to use it. And also the letter is 3 things. The letter is information that it contains. It is also a physical thing you can hold in your hand. It is a gift. And it's also symbolic of the effort it took to write it. So that when you send a letter to someone in prison, you give them 3 things at once. And even, I get a number of letters from people in prison. There's a little, they want to say like, once your picture appears in Essence magazine, 6 weeks later you'll get letters from people in prison. So the first time I got a letter from a person in prison, I didn't know what to do, and I was speaking to Nikki Giovanni and said, you know, Nikki, I received this letter from this man in prison. She said, oh, are you in Essence? And then I said, well, I don't know what to do. She said, you're going to write him back. She said, because you as a person in the world, you don't know the amount of effort it took. He has to pay for the paper, pay for the stamp, pay for the envelope. Like, it's so much of a challenge for him to write you that letter. You must always return a letter from a person to person.
So what happened when you were one of Kennedy's 100 most precisely or important people?
Oh, that event is going to happen actually on my birthday. But I was in Essence, like in 2003 or something. You know, it was like young writers to watch. But it's true, like 6 months later, the letters started sending.
Okay. And you write your letters on your electric typewriter?
I don't use I use a manual typewriter.
Oh.
I have a collection of about 10 manual typewriters. I love writing on typewriters. I feel like when I type on the computer, it's too fast, that I don't know what I'm writing. I feel it's almost like when you eat too fast. You know, you don't know what you ate. You know you ate, the plate is empty, clearly you ate it, but you don't remember it. That's how I feel when I write on the computer. But the typewriter, it makes so much noise. It's so satisfying to make all that noise. You get something done.
I wrote my dissertation on this electric.
Oh, wow.
At Radcliffe, actually, the Radcliffe Library, in that cold winter of 73, 74.
I remember 74.
You were just born. Yes, just barely born. But I wrote on a selection. You write on manuals. When I want to slow down, I write by hand.
I write by hand too. Well, I really, honestly, when the writing is going well, I can do it any kind of way. I feel like writing is like being in love. When you're in love, there's always time to be in love. Whatever you do when you're in love is a fun thing. But anything is a fun date when you're in love. It's when you're not in love that you need a really good date. You need, everything has to be right. And so that's how I feel about writing. When it's going well, I can write on the back of a napkin. It's fine. But when the writing is not going well, I'm like, I must face north. I need So I feel like the more I need is a sign to myself that something isn't quite working.
You have Tayari from Atlanta who loves to dance.
I did? In public? Where did I say that?
Not so much in public, in your
This is
salsa dancing class.
This is true, but, oh, I know where I said that. Yes, it is true. I took a salsa class. I took a salsa class because when I'm worried about something, I need to do something I'm not that great at because I have to concentrate on doing it. Like when I wrote my first book and I was waiting to see if I would find a publisher, I learned to quilt. Because I'm not good at it, so I have to focus. If I do something that I'm good at, my mind can worry and I can do the thing. So I started taking salsa lessons, and I didn't I told the people in salsa, I told them that I was a kindergarten teacher. And I learned to dance and learned how to do all the moves, all the different steps. And none of them knew that I had written a book until one of them saw the CBS this morning, and they all felt kind of disappointed. They felt like I misled them.
But you said Tayari from Atlanta.
It's true, I am from Atlanta. I'm moving back home.
And you have said that the South is really important for you as a place to be, as a place to write about, as a place of imagination.
I do think that some cities mark its citizens more than others. I think like Atlanta is one of those cities that people from Atlanta feel very much like they are Atlantans. In a way that say people from Indianapolis, they don't really identify hard. Like people from Chicago identify hard with Chicago, and we don't want to talk about Brooklyn, right? So there's some cities that people take on the identity of that place. And one of the things I love about Atlanta is that when I'm in Atlanta, people very often will mistake me for someone else because there's so many people similar to me in Atlanta, and I enjoy that feeling. And being up here in the north, when I tell people I'm from Georgia,
That's not the same as Atlanta.
Atlanta is in Georgia, but they act like they're not from the Underground Railroad. They're like, are you okay? And they're fine, they're chilling, they're good. So I became kind of subconsciously a Southern writer by not being in the South, because I didn't know until I left the South the extent to which the South needed my writing to add to our understanding of it. But when you live somewhere, it's just neutral or natural to you. You don't know until you go away how different you seem or other places are, how unique where you live. I grew up in Atlanta, and I did not believe that the United States was majority white country. I knew it was, like in the way that people tell you the earth is 80% water. You kind of know the earth is 80% water, but you're sitting here on solid ground, so you don't believe the earth is 80% water. And that's how I felt growing up in Atlanta. Like people think because I'm from the South, I must have grown up under like incredible racism. But I grew up in kind of a black middle class community where, I didn't really know any white people until I moved to Iowa. Then I knew all the white people.
So, An American Marriage is a New York Times bestseller in multiple formats. President Obama selected it for the summer reading. Oprah made it a main selection for her influential book club. It was an editor's choice of the New York Times Book Review. It was well listed for the National Book Award in fiction. You've been selected for Ebony Magazine's Our 100 list. It was a New York City Literacy Partner Sunday Read. You have been inducted into the Georgia Writers Hall of Fame. You have been named a Black Mountain Institute Shearing Fellow in Las Vegas. Your book was long listed for an Andrew Carnegie Medal shortlist to be announced on October 24th next week. And your book has been enthusiastically and positively reviewed everywhere. How have all this attention, all this distinction, and all these sales changed your life? I know it allowed you to get 2 massages in one day, add aromatherapy to spa treatment, but what else?
It's a very different thing to Like I think it's mostly going to affect me when I get started working on a new book. When I wrote my books, I never really thought much about what people would think. Because, I mean, a book is book fame is it's very small. Like, so few people read it that I tell my students when they worry about other people, like, oh, I don't know what my relatives are going to think. I always say, don't worry about it. They're not going to read it. Don't worry about it. You know, just write the story you're going to write. Really, no one's going to say anything to you about it. Because even though it looms so big in your imagination, it's not big in the cultural imagination. But now, I have a lot more readers, and it has changed my experience as a writer. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's made me grateful, particularly for the people who read my early books. They've come along for the ride with me, and it's really touching whenever I meet someone they have that first book with them. I was able to move to Atlanta, I think, because of the success of this book. I was able to get a job at Emory University. But I think the biggest thing about the Oprah thing is that it makes my accomplishment legible to everyone. I felt before, like when you had an accomplishment as a writer, you have to explain to the person what the accomplishment is, and by the time you get to explain them why it's important, they're like, good for you. You know? And this has been a wonderful kind of reward for all the years that I was doing something that people just thought was obscure and a little weird, I think.
So you don't feel like it fundamentally changed your life? All this attention and all these accolades?
No,
And all this money?
There's
money.
Where's the money? I mean, I think it would be great to have some money. You know, I've heard about money, I've heard about other people with it, but I don't know. I mean, that's not my job. I feel like my life is I think it's the same, and I think it's because I've been writing for so many years that I know who I am and why I do what I do. So I'm appreciative, but I feel like I'm the same person that I've been.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to our audience who I'm sure have questions and comments. Is somebody keeping up the time for us?
Yeah, we're fine.
We're fine. Will you stop us? One of the, I like many things about Tayari Jones, who has been a mentor to me in my life as a writer of creative fiction, which I wasn't before I met you. And I wanted to thank her very much, but I didn't want to thank her in the beginning because it's so easy to thank women for being helpers. I wanted to talk about you and about your work as you and your work first. So thank you for being a generous person, but also thank you for being a generous citizen of American Letters, because you're on the board of the Authors Guild. You are in the Center for Southern Literary Arts and the Teachers and Writers Collaborative. These institutions are what keep writing going, and that you have been able to give your time and wisdom to other writers is a very generous thing. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to help because I feel like so many people, I feel like information tends to circulate to other people who already have the information. And when I first started writing, I didn't know anyone, I didn't know anything. I remember I went to a writer's conference and everyone else was talking about what they had worn to their Meet the Media luncheon. I didn't even know that people had Meet the Media luncheons, let alone, I just remember I went back to my room and I felt like, how am I ever going to catch up? I haven't heard of anything. I don't even know what to apply for. I always say you can't apply for something you've never heard of. And the people who know, they only know other people who know. So part of what I really wanted to do was try to get the word out, because I believe that the body of American writing and American literature is limited to people who know stuff. And so many people have so many important stories to tell, but they're not plugged in. So that is why I joined these organizations, why when I have a chance to judge a contest, something, because I am trying to open it up, because our stories are important. And we cannot understand this culture until we've heard from everyone.
So how are we managing questions?
Okay, so if everyone who has a question, and I know there are many of you because I heard when you're getting your tickets in some cases. How about if you have the line come forward over here and you can ask your question at the mic? Want to try that? Or if you want, I could walk around and it's comfortable with that. It's just sometimes hard to get it in the middle of the road. So if you have a question, I'll start with you then.
And I'm a teacher, I will call them.
What was the original title that you wanted to?
It used to be called, I'm embarrassed by it now. I'm embarrassed by my original title, the way you're embarrassed by your ex-boyfriend, like you can't even believe it. I can't believe I used to even take that title. I don't know if you know I know that title. So I'm not telling you.
Just go with that guy. So our book club loved this book, and we're all here now to thank you for writing such an incredible story. But we are all white, and one of the comments I made is it felt very universal, even though it was about incarceration of black men. That was one thing. But then the last question I had, because I moderated it for our book club, was the title, An American Marriage. What marriage were you talking about? And because there was, I read it a while ago, but the father, Celestial's father and stepfather and mother, that marriage was a much more conventional marriage, but a very tender and beautiful marriage. So I actually messaged you and asked you that question, like if, now that you have shared that this wasn't your title, but it is the title of the book. I wondered if you thought about that was many marriages that you really were talking about in the book.
Well, I did do so many marriages because I definitely didn't want to seem like I was writing a novel about what is a definitive marriage, right? So that's why I have all these different marriages. I was thinking of the title of Celestial and Roy's marriage, but people do love Olive and Big Roy's marriage. People love their marriage. So here's the question. Like, one thing though, don't you think that those two, I think they're made for each other, but I don't think either one of them would have a good go with anybody else. And that's one thing I felt when I was writing, that marriage is about compatibility, about two people who want the same thing. And I was trying to be sure not to be judgy in the writing, like, oh, this is the real marriage, and this is the not real marriage, and mix it up like that. But in terms of universal, I think that most writing is universal. Like, when I was a kid, I read Stephen King. I'm not white, I've never been to Maine, but I was scared. And, a clown in the gutter is scary. But I think that work by people of color, there's this feeling like, oh, it's just for them. But I think almost everything is readable. Think about all the stuff you read as a kid. Like, things are whether a text feels universal, I think it's more about the reader than the text, I think.
I love the book. I thank you so much for it. I was curious. What I thought was astonishing was the fact that I was on everyone's side. I was on the boy's side and Andre's side. I mean, whoever you were talking about, you convinced me that they were right, which is a really extraordinary feat. But I wondered, who are you rooting for?
I'm on team everybody because I like all those people. I like them all, and I could see all their points of view very clearly. And one thing I wish I had done differently, because this woman in Baltimore, I got heckled in Baltimore. I got heckled. This lady was screaming at me, was a real thing, right? And she was really she was mad at me because she felt that I did not have enough respect for marriage. And she was definitely all about Roy, and she was mad at everyone else. And she was like screaming at me, like every time I tried to talk. And I felt that maybe in the book I had leaned too much on Roy's point of view because she was seeing every person as Roy would see them. And I was trying to make it where it felt balanced all the way around. But I think that I feel like I just may have tilted it a little too much in that one direction.
Not just on my point of view, it wasn't that way for me. Each person that you were writing about, I was so motivated to say, you know, she should land up with him. I mean, that's what I thought was so remarkable, and I read very few books that have really allowed me to see equally both sides of the story.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thank you, first and foremost. I wanted to ask, the book is set in Atlanta, and you said a while ago, you made mention of having grown up there and your experience of Atlanta. And where I think the story itself, because it happens all across the country to any number of people, but I'm wondering, is there an Atlanta sensibility? And if so, what is it?
I do think there is an Atlanta sensibility, or at least Atlanta as I know it. I'm gonna get more specific. I'm gonna say there's a Southwest Atlanta sensibility, and I think I can explain it best in a little anecdote. I was home and I needed to go to the doctor. I had a cold, and I went to talk to a woman. She's in her 80s. She was the chair of English at Spelman when I was there. She was retired, and I always go visit her. And I wasn't feeling well, and I said, I really need to see a doctor. And she says, you know, I have a doctor. She said, he's good. She paused. She said, he didn't go to Morehouse, but he went to Harvard, and it's only a cold. That captures the Southwest Atlanta sensibility.
We have questions over here.
Hi, I just finished the book and just in time for this, and I loved it. I just wonder, by the end I felt like Celestial just didn't, was the intent for Celestial not to want to be married in general? Or that this situation freed her in a sense? Or did the circumstances push her that? So it's kind of...
I mean, I do think she was ambivalent about being married. Like, she was not sure she wanted to be married, and the confinement of it wasn't really, she wasn't a little girl that dreamed about being married. Like, I had a cousin who planned her wedding when we were 12. She even had places on this piece of paper she had written who was going to do what? For brides, not what do you call the little kids, the flower children, who had not been born yet. She was like banking on people to have children in time for her wedding. And Celestial just wasn't like that. But I don't think this situation freed her. I think that this situation made it actually harder for her because of the incredible societal pressure. And she married Roy, but once he went to prison, she was married to a person who is now a symbolic person. And whenever people become symbolic, you can't really interact with them as individuals anymore. And when he went to prison, she became symbolic to him. He became so dedicated to the idea of her. And she was busy being an actual individual. And I think that was what happens. I do think that when people suffer injustice, particularly injustice like wrongful incarceration, a black man wrongfully incarcerated for a sexual assault is so historic and so symbolic that, I mean, I even thought about it once he got out. I was thinking, could she even be married to him? Like, he always has the moral high ground because of his symbolic position. You can't even tell that man to take out the trash. You're like, take out the trash, and he'll be like, I was wrongfully incarcerated. You're like, and I thought about how that would affect the relationship, to have someone who always holds that position. I love that. Okay, I'm not allowed.
So my question is, I I guess you said I hadn't heard the story about the mall and the observation of this couple being wrongly yoked. My question was if you felt that their marriage was doomed from the beginning, like if they were not. What do you think? I did. It was a subject of great debate in our book group. So
I think they might have got together. What do y'all think? I think they might have gotten together. I think that it's possible. I mean, we've seen worse relationships than that work out, but they never had a chance to grow together. And also, I do think it's a problem you cannot measure the health of a relationship merely on longevity, right? Because things that are dysfunctional, that dysfunctional mess can last. Don't y'all know people who can do it sometimes? See? So, I don't know, but I think they could have grown together, but they never had a chance. But it was also very important to me that they not be a perfect couple. Y'all watch Dateline? Dateline undermines my faith in humanity, but Dateline always starts off with like, they were a couple with everything. And also, I feel like if they were a perfect couple too, it would feel like I was trying to make them earn the right to their problems, like what happened to Roy was an injustice, whether he was a good husband or not, and I didn't want to try to make him earn the right to understand that he had been done wrong.
Good afternoon. I enjoyed your book, and I'm sitting here with my book club all over here. So we read the book, some of us, and enjoyed it. Okay, so what I want to ask you is, in the beginning of the story, when Roy and his wife, Celestial, go to visit the parents, and they stay at the motel as opposed to staying at the home with their parents, she brought the doll that she had made for the mayor, and the doll is exquisite, and it looks like Roy. And I was wondering, I'm saying, are you telling us that this is a child they would never have?
I think that all artists, the people in your life show up in your heart. And I think that before he went to prison and the dolls all looked like him, I think he just felt flattered by it, right? I think he felt, what did he say? I'm her manager and her muse, and that it was, the relationship is on her mind, and so the dolls look like him. And then once he went away, they took on a different meaning for him and for her, right? Once he went to prison, she's making the dolls, and so many of them look like him because she's thinking about him and she's processing her, I think, some guilt and the relationship. And then for him, the doll's looking like him. He feels like, and now you're making art off of me. Like everything keeps changing. But I don't think that the dolls are the children they never had. I don't think so.
Because remember, his mother really wanted that doll, and he would not allow her to have it. He said, well, we put this doll's for the mayor. But the wife, Celestial, said, she can have it, let her have it.
She did.
So I was just thinking, this was maybe the baby symbolically that they would never realize.
It's interesting, our library book club thought it was about her conflict about having children, and that's why she kept thinking more, and was kind of like working through it, and then it was like,
There's a young lady over here who's had her hand up forever. See, I can see from where I'm sitting.
Hi, I really enjoyed American Marriage, so I just wanted to say thank you. My question to you would be, did you always know what the outcome of Celestial and Roy's marriage would be?
I'm not going to spoil it. I got you.
Could you all hear the question? Did you all hear the question?
She wants to know if I knew in the beginning what the end was going to be. No, I did not. That is actually how I keep myself motivated to keep writing. Like, I like to feel as a writer the way you feel as a reader, like breathlessly turning pages. I like to breathlessly write pages. But I will tell you, I was stranded 50 pages from the end for a year because I couldn't figure it out. And I really, it just drove me nuts. I thought of it all different ways. I wrote some possible endings, but I realized that what I was doing is that I was letting Roy drag me through the story. That Roy thinks this is a story about how he can get back what he's lost. He thinks this is a book about how he can get back how he can get his job back, his wife back, his status back. He thinks that's what the measure of his story is. And then I realized that the measure of the story is, can he recapture his citizenship of his own life? And you are a citizen of your life and of your family and of your community by what you can offer. And what he really lost was understanding that he had something he could offer another person. So I figured that out. But during that year when I was 50 pages from the end, it was terrible. It was like the book and I were living together and we could not afford to move out. And so it was there. I would see it every day. He would see me every day. And I just didn't know how I was going to. But once I realized that it was about Roy's citizenship, I'm not going to spoil it because I could be real specific, but I won't. But I brought this up to him as a character. I was like, "Oh, Roy, what do you think of this?" And Roy I felt like he resisted me. I felt like he felt like, "No, I've suffered. You can't make me give anything to anyone. I refuse." And I was like, "Look, we got to finish this book because this book is 4 years overdue. We either gonna have to work it out or give these people their money back." So I went to bed and I woke up the next morning and I wrote the last 50 pages in a day and a half. I used up all the ribbon on my typewriter.
Hello there. I want to say thanks for sending me the information about this event because I invited you to my book club meeting. I'm Brenda, and thanks for writing it. The part of the book that my book club had a real hard time with was the betrayal of friendship between Andre and Roy. And how could Celestial, even though she had a fling with Andre in high school, that she...
People get mad at you.
I'm sorry. But why did you put them together again to betray that friendship?
I feel honestly that I knew that Celestial would have a lover. I knew she would have a lover. And honestly, I didn't think there was I felt like because of the expectations of genre, there was no one she could have as a lover that would be okay. Like, I felt like if she met somebody new, it'd be like, look at him, just walked up in here, disrupting this thing. And then with Andre, it was like, Andre, he's been around so long. Like, I feel that the frustration is really on her doing anything at all. It's almost like when people say, oh, it's not the cheating, it's the lying. And you're like, it's the cheating, come on. Like, but you pick the one thing, but I just felt there was really no model. There was no narrative model for a woman in her position to go forward with her life without being judged. I couldn't think of any model, And Andre was her friend. They knew each other since they were born. And I did think that I was trying to say that this was an established thing. But I also think that Roy's incarceration made everything in her life problematic. The boy next door is an accepted romantic trope. That is what rom-coms are made for. The boy next door. Hattie LaBelle told us. Hattie LaBelle said, I've been looking around and you were here all the time, right? That is an accepted, established romantic story. But for Celestial, in her situation, there's only one story that's acceptable for her to have, waiting.
Hi, I'm right here. So I as a reader didn't feel as though Celestial was completely fulfilled by either Andre or Roy. So I don't know, I just wanted you to clarify that for me. Was anybody actually happy at the end of the book? I finally found my true love and I'm completely fulfilled after this tragedy.
All right, there's a lot of people don't got the end.
Oh, sorry.
Easy. But I would say this, I do think, again, back to the genre expectation, I don't think that this novel is about people finding their ultimate fulfillment through romance. I think it's about people trying to make committed, fulfilled lives together. But it's not a novel. And they will all be damaged based on what happened to them. There's no romance that could happen to you that can make up for what happened to them. But they will be able to all move forward. I feel like they have a chance at making their lives what they want it to be. But I don't think it's a romantic happy ending.
Hi. So one of the guys in my book club fell in total.
You have guys in the book club?
It's on my book club. But fell in total love with Sylvia. And so when I told him I was going to see you today, he insisted that I ask you who inspired you to include Sylvia.
Sylvia is my favorite character in the book. She has such a small role. It's the wife of the lawyer, of Uncle Bank's wife, Sylvia. I put her in there. She's kind of an aspirational character for me. Like, I felt like she was a person who was happy in her life. She's not married, but she is living she and her man, they're living their life on their own terms. And I always, in every book, I have a character, and it usually has a small role that I admire.
Take one or two more questions, and then we'll line up for the book signing.
We're going to get you in the back row, I see.
Hi, I heard you speak in 2013 at Bryan, Texas about leaving Atlanta, which is great. Are you working on book number 5 or 6?
I'm kind of working on a book. I have an idea. I witnessed something. I don't know what's up. I should just say, I'm not married, but I keep thinking of these books involving people's marriages. I don't know what that's all about. But when I was 12, I went to a wedding with my mother, and the wedding was a big, beautiful church, and the wedding was kind of a victory lap for the mother of the bride because her daughter had married a doctor. You know, she was a single mother, and her daughter was married a doctor. That was a thing, that Atlanta sensibility, a doctor. And we were all here in the church, and no one came down the aisle. You know, the organist was playing, everybody's looking around, and my mother said, "Let's go to the back." I'm a nosy person, so is my mother. I am her child. I was like, yes, let's go. So we went around to that, and there was the bride. She was beautifully dressed, and she was sobbing. She didn't want to marry him. She didn't want to marry him. She was crying. And her mother, this is her mother's moment. And her mother said, "I have an idea. How about you walk down the aisle and just don't file the papers?" Now, that's clever, right? And then the mother looked at me and said, "Don't you say anything else." I guess you could see it in my eyes, but I should have told everybody. She walked down the aisle, she said, "I do," we kissed the bride, the reception happened, we did the electric slide, all the things that one does. And I've always wondered, one, why didn't she want to marry him? And two, at what point did that man find out he wasn't married? Like, when is a convenient time to say, "Oh, what we did yesterday," it's like, I don't know how you do it. But in my imagining for a novel, it would not be the mother who says, "I have an idea." I imagine her 4 friends or her bridesmaids, and one of them comes up with a solution. And then the rest of the book is really about how the 4 of them live with their role in what happened in this really bad situation for their friend.
My question is not actually about the book. I am interested in you as a young writer who has enjoyed this tremendous success and received so many countless awards, and now you're a professor. I'm wondering, in light of social media and millennials and how they consume information and books and news in very different ways, what trends you're seeing as a professor teaching writing to young people as a young person enjoying the success?
Well, I got students in here, actually. My students in here, I love when I see them, when I go around. I think that the challenge I have really with dealing with students in the era of social media is that I don't care about your platform. I just don't care. I don't care how many Twitter followers you have. It has nothing to do with what we're doing. Writing is a slow process, and I feel like the social media has made people addicted to instant feedback, to likes and clicks. This book took me for 6 years. I was writing this book and I had nothing to show for my time. I would see people saying, whatever happened to Tayari Jones? And I was like, I'm here. But because it took me 6 years, it was like I had written my last book for them a lifetime ago. And you have to get your head right where you're okay with being forgotten while you get your story right, while you get it the way you want it. And that let the virtue of the book speak, not your personality, not your persona. That's a really hard thing to do. But one thing I do point out, because they also, don't you think that they now tell young people, well, you have to have a platform. Have y'all ever heard that? But if you look at the people with the really successful books, they're not even on their Twitter. They're not even on it. They're at home writing their books. But they tell people this, and then the students enjoy Twitter anyway. So they're up there tweeting, feeling they're getting something done because they're building their platform, but you have to build your book. And I think that is the hardest thing.
So we're running a bit tight on time now because we're going to have the author sign the book.
I can't believe y'all didn't ask me the one question people always ask me. What is it? What? Yeah, that's the question people always ask me. But she was just restraining herself. People always ask me to tell them more about the woman that accused Roy. Right, yeah, people always ask me that. You know, I did not, it didn't come up in your book club? Well, when I wrote the book, I decided not to identify her for two reasons. One is that I call myself giving a little nod to a Toni Morrison story, where she never tells, there are two girls who are in foster care, and one is black, one is white, and they're always having all these racial conflicts, and she never tells you which is the black one and which is the white one. And people, your students fight about it, and it's all about identity and stuff, and race as a construct. So I'm tipping my hat to Toni Morrison, as I try to do that in every book I write, because I love her, and I want her to one day know that. I felt like if I spent a lot of time on that part of the story, then we would fall down the rabbit hole of that familiar story and not be able to move forward. So I call myself kind of sliding by, and I thought my editor never asked me about it. I thought, okay, I've done this. And then when he wrote the jacket copy, he said, this is the story of Roy, a highly educated, highly educated black man who was wrongfully accused of a rape of a white woman. And it sounded like Dateline, but rape of a white woman. And I was like, I didn't say that. And he was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that you didn't say it. His mind filled in that blank. And that has been really interesting. What did y'all think? How many people thought she was white? How many people didn't think she was white? That's what somebody said yesterday. But you know what it's going to come and get me? Yes. The movie. They're going to put somebody in it. I said, well, maybe we could put her in shadow. And then someone said, she has to testify. So we're going to leave. I don't know how we're going to handle it. I don't know. We'll leave that up to Mother.
I think we're going to wrap. Before I start losing folks, I just want to say a few things. Number one, let's give them both a round of applause. I want to thank the congregation, Central Presbyterian, for your hospitality, and special thanks to Lynn Selassie, who's in the back of me, for making this happen. Thank you, Lynn. To Gloria and John Pack, our event sponsors, Sue Reamer Mellon, and the Montclair Foundation and Investors Bank for being a sponsor of Open Book, Open Mind. Thank you so much.